Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about kindness. So out of Hosea chapter 11, I encourage you to go back and read the whole story. This is a prophet from God that God kind of encourages him to choose a woman, and her occupation was a prostitute, but not only to choose her to marry, but also to love her. And you see the beautiful forgiveness, restoration, and God was using this whole love story to demonstrate his love towards you and I. But in Hosea chapter 11, verse 4, it says, I led them with cords of kindness, with the bands of love, and I became to them as one who eases the yoke on their jaws and bent down to them and fed them. Isn't this the beauty of the gospel? That God meets us where we're at, and he supplies all of our needs. He provides not only our greatest need, which is spiritually, but also the forgiveness of our soul. But he loves us so much, not only to accept us as we are, meet us where we're at, but to refuse to leave us the same condition. So he provides for us, he blesses us, he covers us and showers us with grace. That's the kindness of God towards you and I. And so Jesus later on also breaks down whenever he describes the greatest commandment: love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and strength, but also love your neighbor as yourself. And so, if you're, a little talk back like I am, one of the Pharisees, or the people that were in the crowd, asked, well, who is your neighbor? Like, I need some clarification on this, because that's not an easy task. And Jesus, instead of answering directly, he responds with a parable. He says, there was a man that was coming down from worshiping, and he was beaten and robbed, and he was left for dead. And then a priest was walking down the road, saw him in his need, switched to the other side and kept on walking. And then a Levite, like you would think a priest, come on, all right, maybe you're too busy. A Levite, a spiritual worshiper, somebody that's dedicated to do the things of the Lord, walks by, sees him in his need, and crosses to the other side and ignores him. And then a good Samaritan, somebody that's mixed, that's not pure per se, or somebody that normally wouldn't help a Jewish person, crosses the road, sees him in this need, helps him, not only helps him in that moment, takes him to a place, pays for whatever he has to pay for his care at that place. And then Jesus says, who is your neighbor out of these three? And they answered, well, the Good Samaritan. And Jesus said, you have answered correctly. See, this is the person that doesn't ignore our needs. This is the person that demonstrates kindness, that sees you where you're at, meets you in your needs, and he refuses to leave you in the same condition in which he finds you. You see, this is the power of the Holy Spirit that can do inside you and I, that he can fill us and demonstrate that fruit of kindness. I saw a video the other day of Tim Tebow. He was a famous football player, not so much because he was good, just because he was so outspoken and bold with his faith. But he was talking about, I think he was preaching at some big conference, and he was talking about a famous photographer that won the global yearly biggest award for photography. And within that photo, it was a young child in Africa dying. He was malnourished. Obviously, he hadn't eaten in some time. And there was a vulture, basically, not just flying around waiting for his next meal to die, but this kid was, even though he was still breathing, he was in his final stages, and this vulture was behind. And in the picture, it takes of this young child and the vulture, like already landed on ground, just waiting for this kid to die. Like, this man allowed this boy to not only die, but take advantage of the picture and eventually win an award. After that award, that says that a few time later, this man committed suicide. Think about this. He reached the pinnacle of his profession. He was able to achieve everything he desired and sought out to look for. But that popularity, those accolades, that wasn't enough. Why? Because he chose to be indifferent to the need to the young, small child. You see, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. It's to see somebody in its need and not want to do anything. And Jesus is telling us in this parable, that's your neighbor. the person that has a need, not physical location that lives next to you, not those that just worship with you, not those that are in your small circle of friends and family, but your neighbor is anybody you see that has a need. And our fruit to demonstrate in that moment is kindness. Will we see that person? Will we meet them where they're at? And will we love them enough to refuse to leave them in the same condition? You see, this takes, I know we live in a day and age where like the baddest wolf, the alpha dog gets the job and is the most popular one and this and that. But sometimes kindness, it's subtle, but it goes way further. You see, like having that type of A personality, maybe like some of us may have, can get us there faster. But kindness will always get you longer at the end. And so I encourage you to allow the fruit of God's Spirit to demonstrate kindness. Like there's a challenge going around with some of my friends on social media, and they're taking the stimulus check that we have from COVID-19 from the government, and they're using it to send a small portion to somebody in need, a family, a nonprofit organization. This is a challenge that people are starting to do. Like while there's some just wanting their money, what they believe they deserve, which we don't really deserve it, but they believe they deserve, they're taking that money and now looking for a need to supply. I'm not asking you necessarily to do that because at the end of the day, this COVID-19 is going to come and go just like the rest of all the other situations. But what I am asking you is that if you are a believer, if you are the indwelling Holy Spirit is within you, that you demonstrate this fruit of kindness, and that in every season, in any moment, when or if you see that person in need, you meet them where they're at, you help them and serve them and love them enough that you refuse to leave them the same way they are again. I promise you, if you make this prayer, your eyes will automatically be open to so much need around the world. Be careful when you pray this, but just know that there's many opportunities for acts of kindness. God bless you.